What is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of the Second of Strength podcast. Wherever you're at, I'm grateful you're here. Grateful you're spending your valuable seconds with me. Look, as someone who just believes in the power of 1 second, you have your 1 second of strength. I believe that where you spend your time really matters. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today because today, something amazing happened the other week. So my son, 9 years old, he got out of the shower one day, and as always, his clothes are sitting there on the floor, and he walks right by them and doesn't think of them. And of course, he never brings his towel down because that's what 9-year-olds do. And so as he was walking past his clothes this day, I said, "Hey, bud, don't forget to pick up your clothes because we have to do the little things now or they become the hard things later." And I just mentioned it to him. He picked up his clothes, he put them away. And then the next day when he was showering again, I noticed that he picked up his clothes and put them away without being asked. And now I think he's reverted back to not picking up his clothes. But in the moment, it was like this shocking thing of like, oh my gosh, he did it. And like I had this like small celebration in my mind that my son is actually learning things and that we're going to live a happy life and all these things. And of course, now we're back to leaving our clothes around. But there was this moment where I think there was just this recognition of doing the hard thing, doing the little things now, or they become hard things later. And I think if you think about it, in this instance, like the hard thing later was, well, then later dad's going to tell you to come back or you'll be kind of in trouble for it, or you know how it goes, right? Like I'm going to have to harp on him a little bit to come and pick up these clothes instead of just knowing to do it right in the moment, instead of walking by your clothes, picking them up. And so that's what we want to talk about today is we want to talk about what are these little things that we can do now so they don't become hard things later. And long ago, there was this story of this man who was supposed to deliver a message to the king in in the nearby castle, in the nearby kingdom, because there was a group of soldiers who were going to come and attack the kingdom. And so this man jumped on his horse with this important message and he started riding. Night and day, just riding, because he had to make it back to the kingdom in time so that he could deliver this message to save the kingdom. And on one of these days, as he was riding, he noticed that his horse was laboring a little bit. And so he got off the horse and he realized that the horse had a splinter in his hoof. And so it was creating this problem. But because of the importance of the message, he decided that he needed to keep going. He just jumped back on the horse and he rode because the lives of these people in the kingdom were at stake. And so he kept riding, kept going. Well, another day or two passed and the horse couldn't go anymore because of the pain in his foot, this little thing that was in his foot that should have been taken care of. And sometimes, like I said, when we don't take care of those little things, they do become hard things later. But the man was very determined. So he left the horse, sadly, and he went on without him. But without the horse, without that speed, he wasn't able to make it in time. And so just as he approached, he walked over the hill to where he would see the valley and the kingdom. He noticed that the kingdom was on fire. He didn't make it in time. And I think that serves as a lesson for us that there are these things in life that we have chosen not to take care of. We are choosing to leave aside. We are choosing to gloss over or pass over because they're the little things, and maybe in the moment we don't have the motivation, or maybe in the moment we're procrastinating a little bit, or maybe in the moment we just don't feel like it's what we want to do because we want to do something else with our time. But those little things, just like the horse who had the splinter in his hoof, just like the horse couldn't go on, that's what happens to us in our lives when we don't focus on those things, the little things. Life can get harder. If we don't focus on the little things now, they become the hard things later. And so I hope as we go through this, you can think about what are those little things in your life that you have been maybe putting aside, maybe not putting your full intention on, maybe not focusing on because you're so focused on these other things. What are those little things that maybe it's time to focus a little bit on them, because the trade-off of that is we don't want them to be the hard things later. So, and part of this is using dopamine for the real reason of dopamine, and getting the benefits of accomplishing those small tasks, those small little things that we don't really want to do, getting the benefit of them in our brain so it feels good and so we can accomplish the big things later. And I think dopamine gets this bad rap, right? Like we connect dopamine to social media and smartphones and the negative uses of it because too often dopamine is tied to instant gratification. And when we feel instantly that gratification from honestly leaving the little things aside and doing whatever we want, that's the gratification we got that's tied to dopamine. Well, if we can flip that and we can use dopamine for its intended purpose and making progress towards long-term goals, putting deposits in our life that are going to pay out big dividends and big benefits later, those are the things that are going to help us. So let's use dopamine in the right way so that we can reap the rewards in life later on, even though we don't really want to do it now. Darren Hardy, in his book, The Compound Effect, he talks about small, seemingly insignificant things become big things later. And I believe that to be true. Small, seemingly insignificant habits become significant over time and deliver significant results over time. So what are those small little habits, those little things that we can start doing right now today that will change your life forever? And I think there's a couple of areas, a couple of buckets that we can really focus on to make sure that we are making those daily deposits of positivity and daily deposits of that good dopamine that are those little things that will pay off later. Number one is let's focus on our relationships. What are those relationships in life that we need to maybe put a little bit of time, a little bit of attention into so that later on it'll benefit in a big way? And part of that is relationships in general. Yes, there's a dividend to having long-standing relationships, and whether that's with family or friends, but we put that positive effort in, and over time we develop these relationships, and I think that's one piece of it. But part of it is simply just relationships in general. I believe that connection in real life, or IRL as the kids say, connection in real life is a key to happiness. If you want to be happier, invest in your relationships. If you want to be happier, spend more time with people. If you want to be happier, then focus on building those relationships and connecting with people in real life. And when you connect with people in real life, you will receive the dividends of being happier. The flip side of that is if we don't connect in real life, if we're not investing in people, if we're not investing in those relationships, then those relationships will deteriorate. And when those relationships deteriorate, then we feel alone, we feel isolated, we feel apart. And that is the opposite of what we want to accomplish in our lives. So number one, let's focus on the relationships. Those are the little things that if we don't, it becomes a hard thing later on in life. Number two, we have to do the little things for our mental health. And I think there's a growing sentiment around mental health, and more people are thinking of it, which I love, because I believe that growth comes from awareness. I say that all the time. Growth comes from awareness. Well, are you aware of your own mental health, and are you aware of how you are doing yourself? And I think that is one of the keys to being happier in the long run. And if we don't invest in our mental health now, if we're not investing in us in the right way now, then it will become a hard thing later. It's going to become something that we kind of have to deal with. So think about where you're spending your time. Putting down your phone. If you put your phone down now and you learn to focus, you learn to be aware of the time management that you have right now in your life, then later on it's just going to be easier and easier and easier because you'll develop that habit, you've developed that skill. Remember, small, seemingly insignificant habits, if done now, putting down your phone, spending less time on your phone right now, that small, seemingly insignificant habit, if you put that down now, then it's going to be easier over time. However, if we allow instant gratification to win and we get that kind of negative dopamine effect from instant gratification and we let that win, there will be a time where we are so tied and so tethered to our phone and our devices that we don't know how to spend our time otherwise, right? And so you can see these polarizing effects. If we don't do the little thing now for our mental health, then it becomes a hard thing later. Part of that is working on yourself. Part of that, I am big on self-help and personal development, and not just reading and listening to it like podcasts like this, which I appreciate y'all, but also taking action from that. When we listen to personal development, we work on the things that we need to work on, and then we take action on those things. That is where we gain and receive power in our lives. And too often we're not doing that, and we're waiting too long to to get to that point where we're struggling and then we are kind of reaching and grasping for help. Well, let's build the foundation for our mental health right now. That is a little thing we can do every single day. Listen to 15, 20 minutes of personal development, work on yourself, do some journaling, do some gratitude work. If you do those little things now, then either you won't have problems later, so it's not a hard thing later, or you'll be able to handle and have resilience around those hard things later. So that is one key area. So number 1, relationships. Number 2, the little things. Do the little things for your mental health. Number 3, your finances. We've got to fix our focus around our finances. Just very simply, if you save now, life will be easier later. If you spend all of your money now, instant gratification, whatever you want to spend it on, you just are more, frivolent in your spending, then life will be really hard later. It is very simple, but take a look at your finances. And I know there's lots of bills, there's lots of things going on in life, right? But now's the time to start. Now is the time to focus on that. So shift your focus a little bit, focus on your finances, focus on being a little bit more frugal, a little less frivolent. And if you do that, then later on in life, you'll have the ability to be a little more frivolent and a little less frugal. That's all it takes, because the little thing now, if we don't, it's going to be a hard thing later, and we will always feel like we're stuck in the rat wheel, as they say. So you got to do the little things now so you can not struggle as much later. And then one last area is physical fitness. I think this is obviously the simplest example that you can do, but if you don't do the little things now in terms of learning habits of exercise, learning habits of eating healthy, learning those positive habits. If you don't do them now, then later life is going to be really, really hard. And I know working out is not fun. If you follow me on Instagram, you see my Instagram stories. Almost every morning I post something with the sign that hangs in our workout room that says embrace the suck. Sometimes you just got to embrace the suck. The little things now are not the fun things always. The little things now are not the easy things. The little things now are not the things that we necessarily want to be doing, but they're the things that we need to be doing so that later on in life, they don't become the difficult things. So what are those areas of physical fitness? And I'm not saying to go all the way to marathons or all the way to bodybuilding competitions. I don't think you need to do that. I just think small, simple changes will have those big results over time. Maybe it's not buying soda the next time you go to the store. And when you don't buy that soda, the positive dopamine effect that you just did something super great for your life will take effect. Maybe it's just waking up and deciding that you're going to go on a 10-minute walk with your dog. That little walk and knowing that you accomplished that is going to give you the positive dopamine effect that we want. Because we know that it is paying dividends for our life later. We know that we just did a hard thing now, just a little thing now, so it's not hard later. That's the difference, and that's where ultimately success comes from in your life. So look at those areas in your life. I just named a couple: relationships, mental health, finances, physical fitness, where you can make some small, seemingly insignificant changes, and then take those seemingly small, insignificant changes and multiply them over time, every day. Just keep doing them. And over time, you'll have these incredible results, because I just truly believe that the little things right now are not the fun things. They're not the things that you want to be doing. The little things now can be really difficult. But if we don't do the little things now, they become the hard things later. And that's what I want to avoid for you. I want you to just invest in yourself a little bit, invest in your relationships, invest in your mental health, invest in your finances, invest in your physical fitness. And when you do that, then life is going to get a little bit easier later. And if we don't do that, then life gets a little bit harder, or sometimes a whole lot harder later on. And that's what I don't want to have happen. So anyway, I hope this helped you today. If it did, share it with just one other person. You can always tag me on Instagram as well. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Share it on your Instagram stories. And if you haven't done so already, I really appreciate it if you just go real quick, leave a rating and review for the show. Let other people know that it helped you, so that this gets served out to more people. But anyway, I will leave you the way I always leave you. And first, let me just say how grateful I am for you, but I will leave you the way I always leave you. Go find your 1 second of strength and be happy.